Max and Maxine, 18-year-old twins, were buzzing with excitement as they embarked on their long-anticipated camping trip into the heart of the dense, whispering woods. The woods were a vast expanse of towering trees and mysterious shadows, a place where legends thrived and adventures awaited. Their parents had given them this trip as a graduation gift, trusting their bond and sense of responsibility. Max, with his tousled hair and adventurous spirit, and Maxine, with her inquisitive eyes and cautious demeanor, were an inseparable pair. The day began with laughter and exploration. They set up their tent in a clearing, the sun casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. The twins collected firewood, roasted marshmallows, and told ghost stories as the day waned. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the air grew warm, filled with the sounds of birds and the rustle of leaves. "Let's explore a bit more," Max suggested, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Maxine hesitated, glancing at the shadows lengthening around them. "Maybe we should stay close to the camp, Max? It's easy to get lost out here." "Just a quick look around," Max insisted, grabbing his flashlight and a small backpack. "I'll be back soon." Maxine reluctantly agreed and continued organizing their camp. Time passed, and she realized Max had been gone longer than she expected. She called out for him, but there was no response. Panic surged through her as she searched the surrounding area, the sun beginning its descent. "Max!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the trees. There was no answer. With each passing minute, her anxiety grew. She ventured deeper into the forest, calling his name, but only the forest's silence answered her. The shadows grew longer, and the light began to fade. Desperation clawed at her as she retraced her steps back to their camp, hoping he had returned. But the camp was empty, the fire reduced to smoldering embers. Tears filled her eyes as she sat by the dying fire, feeling the weight of the situation settle heavily on her shoulders. Exhausted and scared, she curled up in her sleeping bag, tears streaming down her face. The thought crossed her mind, unbidden and cruel. Did he leave me alone here? As the night wore on, Maxine's mind raced with terrible thoughts. The forest was eerily silent, except for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Just as she was about to drift into a fitful sleep, a strange, ominous noise echoed through the woods. It was a low, mournful sound, unlike anything she had ever heard. It sent shivers down her spine and made her heart race. The sound came again, louder this time, and seemed to be moving closer. Maxine's fear turned to terror as she realized she was not alone in the woods. She grabbed the flashlight, her hands trembling, and stood up. The strange noise continued, growing more insistent. With no other choice, she decided to follow it, hoping it might lead her to some answers. She moved cautiously, the beam of her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The noise grew louder, guiding her deeper into the forest. Maxine's fear was now mixed with a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, she thought, the sound would lead her to Max. She stumbled through the underbrush, her heart pounding, until she found herself at the edge of a deep crevice. "Max?" she called out, her voice shaky. There was no response. She listened intently, and through the silence, she heard a faint, familiar voice. It wasn't the strange noise that had lured her, but a cry for help. "Maxine, help me!" Her heart leaped with relief. It was Max's voice, coming from the depths of the crevice. She shone her flashlight down and saw him, battered but alive, clinging to a narrow ledge. "Max, hold on, I'm coming," she shouted, her fear momentarily forgotten. As she searched for a way to reach him, the strange noise grew deafening. It was a harsh, grating sound, as if something massive and menacing was moving through the trees. Maxine's fear surged back, but she knew she had to save her brother. There was no other choice. With trembling hands, she lowered herself into the crevice. The walls were steep and jagged, but she found footholds and slowly made her way down. The noise above them grew louder, echoing through the narrow space. Maxine could see the terror in Max's eyes as he looked up, past her, into the darkness above. "Hurry, Maxine," he urged, his voice shaking. Maxine's heart pounded as she reached Max and helped him to a more secure ledge. They clung to each other, the strange noise now a roar that seemed to vibrate through the very earth. The creature, whatever it was dangerously close. With no other option, Maxine made a split-second decision. "Hold on to me, Max," she yelled, and with a final burst of courage, she leaped into the crevice, dragging her brother with her. They tumbled down the rocky walls, their fall broken by small ledges and outcroppings. Finally, they landed in a narrow chamber at the bottom, bruised and shaken but alive. The noise above them faded, replaced by an eerie silence. For a moment they lay there, catching their breath. Maxine's mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Max squeezed her hand, his eyes wide with gratitude and fear. "Thank you, Maxine," he whispered. "I thought I was done for." Maxine hugged him tightly, tears of relief streaming down her face. "I'll never leave you, Max. We're in this together." They spent the rest of the night huddled in the crevice, the strange noise now a distant memory. As dawn broke, they found a way to climb out, their bond stronger than ever. The woods, once filled with fear, now seemed like a place of triumph. They had faced the unknown and come through it together, their courage and love for each other shining brightly against the darkness. The twins made their way back to their camp, bruised but triumphant. They knew they had a story to tell, a story of bravery, love, and the unbreakable bond between siblings. The woods, with all its mysteries, had tested them and shown them their own strength. And as they packed up their camp and headed home, they knew they would always have each other, no matter what challenges lay ahead.